You're going to want to bring this closer, Herman. Like, don't be afraid. Like, the whole thing, you can twist it, move it, but you want to.
All right.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
All right.
All right. So, special time. Chris is out on a little vacay, so we're going to bring in 2 team leaders, Levi and Herman. These 2 gents and I, approximately, 3 weeks ago, a month, went to Honduras together.
It's been a month
Has
now.
it been a month already?
Yeah, over a
It
month.
feels
Yeah.
like one of those things that happened like outside of space and time.
I mean, it did, because we were coming straight out of that pandemic, and it's been a psychotic time. But yeah, I mean, we jumped on a plane, and we went to Honduras. And I wanted to bring you in for a couple of reasons. We have a lot of footage that we're going to put together, but before it got too far down, in a way, before we forget all of the details of it, I wanted to get you all in here and just kind of talk a little bit about it and see what the experience was like. Some of the things that I'd hope everybody could take away was what is different when you experience a coffee origin versus hear somebody talk about a coffee origin.
Yeah.
And what is it about what we do from your perspectives that feels special? And I don't want to plant any seeds. You don't even know what I was going to talk about. You just know we were going to talk about Honduras. So, truth be told, they don't really know where I was going with this, except for we're going to talk about Honduras.
Perfect.
So, I mean, I guess maybe we'll start, because Herman, you said you were nervous, so we'll make you talk first. That'll help you just jump right out of this. What was the experience like leading up and then jumping on that plane and landing? Like, what was that? What was it feeling like? We're in the middle of a pandemic. It's been kind of a crazy year here. You all have been working your asses off, along with Nicole, our 3rd team leader, to get this place stabilized. Like, what was the experience of, okay, we're going to go on our first origin trip since March of 2020?
Well, to be honest, when you first called me and you told me, it was funny because Levi had called me before then, and he already knew. And then I had just got off the phone with him, and you called me and you told me, I was like, hey, real casually, do you want to go to Honduras? And I was like, yes. And then I called Levi back. He's like, yeah, I already knew when I called you. I was like, what the hell?
Calls me all with team leader stuff. He's like, yo, we're worried about this and that. And I'm like, yeah, totally. Let's solve some problems. In the back of my head, I'm just holding this gold nugget.
Oh, yeah. I was like, and then I called him right back, you bastard. You knew the whole time. And then I honestly, until a day or two prior, I had no room for excitement. Like, we've been crushing and going in the cafe. He and I had been working, and I was like, he's like, are you excited? I'm like, I'm not there yet. Like, I'm still have lots of things to like crush before we could leave. Finally, we get like day or before, and I'm packing, and it's like, oh yeah, this is happening. Like, we're going. And it felt, you get that classic, like, I'm not going to sleep because I'm going to go on a trip tomorrow. I'm very excited. I'm packing. I slept maybe a collective like 3 or 4 hours. Yeah. And then you call me and you pick me up in the morning and we go and got on the plane.
We knew nothing going into it. I mean, it was like, you're going to Honduras. Cool. Do you have any questions? Like, no, I think I just want to go into this thing with nothing. You're like, we're staying. It's like, really doesn't matter. You can tell me whatever you want. I'm not going to remember any of this. So I'll see it when I get there.
That was kind of my favorite part. And like, usually I don't travel like that, where I'm like, oh, I'm going to hit all these places. But like, I was really just like, no, dude, like, I'm just going to go. And like, you didn't tell me anything. I just knew we were going to go do awesome things, that was
a little intentional. So yeah, I didn't tell them anything except for, here's our flights. And here's the amount of time we're going to be gone. And make sure you have your passport and your vaccinations. And that was essentially it. Which vaccinations meaning COVID-19, so we could get into the country. But yeah, I intentionally did that for a couple of reasons, just because you both have been to coffee origin regions before. So you went to Huehuetenango, and you went to Colombia. Yep. Did you go to Huila?
I went to Bogota and Popayán.
Okay, yeah. So, and you both went with curated trips with importers, which I think you got a little bit more rustic version, but typically they're pretty pampered. Like they give you really nice situations. And this, even though it's really nice, it's kind of a different thing altogether. So I didn't want to plant any seeds and be like, this is going to be anything but fun. And maybe I wanted you to get there and kind of see and feel what I always kind of try my best to express. But I mean, both of you have heard me talk about, and Chris and Charles and Grace and Jen and Swen now, Honduras in our own way. What was it like feeling that and seeing that? I guess we can start with you, Levi, for the first time with your own eyes.
Well, I think, so first of all, the difference between Colombia and Honduras was I was being shown Colombia through the lens of an importer who was looking to give us an experience. Whereas this time I wouldn't go as far as I wouldn't say we got it through the perspective of the producer, but through somebody who works at a mill processing specialty coffee day in and day out, and we got to see what those relationships look like and how he fosters those relationships and how much care Ben Hameen puts into like the community in general. And I was not prepared for the level of intensity that came with those relationships.
Yeah.
And I'm honored that I got to go, but it was a much more intimate experience.
Right. Yeah. How about for you?
I agree with you completely. Like the first time I went with a bunch of other cafes as well. Like when I went to Huehuetenango in Guatemala, it was very similar in like rustic. Like this time, like I actually stayed at someone's house when I went, and it was kind of cool. He had a really big house with lots of rooms. It felt a little like ratty hostel-y, but like it was cool. But we stayed at someone's house, and we had dinner at like some of the people in town's house, which was very similar. But like this one felt a lot different because it was just the three of us,
right?
And we were going, and we were Cat and Cloud together, and I was kind of timid in the last one because you sent me and I was a part-time guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't believe they're sending me to Guatemala. And I was like so honored. Not that I wasn't honored this time. Like
it's just different.
It's just different.
Yeah.
And like this time I went and I was like, I am Cat Cloud. Like I am here. Like we're going to connect and we're going to talk to these people who spend their entire lives doing this. And it felt very, very special to be able to connect with them, especially in Spanish, like directly. And I didn't need an interpreter, and like I could just talk to them and they could just talk to me, and I could tell that they were stoked. Like it was very, very, I felt like I made friends.
Yeah.
Aside, we're business partners, but like I did make friends. I got some of their numbers. They've texted me a couple times, asked how I've been. It felt really, really special to be able to connect with.
Well, even just people. Having you on the trip, had I gone without you and just with Jared, right? Nobody would be representing Cat and Cloud as fully with our entire like verbiage and lexicon and mission, vision, values. The point gets across with the way that you guys have built relationships with each of the producers, but he's able to speak into them in the language that they're used to speaking.
Right.
And there was something so powerful about that. I mean, sitting around a table for 2 hours with you, just watching body language and being fully engaged in a conversation I can't understand was something really special.
Oh, it was amazing. And major props to you. It is absolutely different for them, the farmer partners of ours, to hear from the mouths of the people we're working with versus hearing through the translator, Ben Hameen, who they believe in, obviously, and they trust a shit ton, as you picked up really quickly day one. So we got there really, really late, by the way. Super tired, long day, which was better than flying through the night. So just saying, we've had this history of doing red eyes. This was awesome to get there late at night versus at 6 in the morning and then do a full day. But that first day out, it was like immediate, right? The thing about Ben Hameen is that little town of Peña Blanca on Lake Yohoa, right next to Santa Barbara Mountain, is his hometown. And he's been there, and his family and generations of people that have been tight have been there for a long time. So the town is clean. Everybody looks out for each other. And he very much is like the unofficial, it feels like mayor of the city.
He totally seems like Mr. President and mayor.
Yeah. And y'all obviously noticed that really quickly, but people are used to him kind of being the liaison. So it's almost like when you're with your significant other and they tell you something cool over and over and over again, it's a little bit less cool. And then somebody like us comes in and is like, you should try this thing. And they're like, yeah. And then your wife's like, why didn't I told you this like 6 months ago, dude? It's almost the same thing I think that was happening then, is like your ability to communicate directly for the company. And sometimes literally for me when I'm trying to speak, because I have to learn Spanish better. And for Levi, it was really, really powerful. So I was really thankful to have you there. And I didn't realize how much the impact would be until I was watching it. But some of that is just you and you being really caring about what we're about and actually identifying with our culture. So also shout out to you for that.
Thank you.
It's not as simple as just bringing a Spanish-speaking person. you were speaking from the heart, and people can see that, which is, I think, a gift of yours.
You connect on the floor with people like that in the cafe as well. I'm more of like an operational, let's get this stuff done, construction worker kind of guy. And you have such a genuine curiosity about people's lives, and it shows. And like, I mean, there's no greater inspiring connection by creating memorable experiences than showing up from halfway across the world and talking coffee with the people that actually produce it, when we're like, your name is on our bag. Like, right. I've said your name 1,000 times, and I've never met you, but I rep you like
so
there's
hard.
no tomorrow. It's like Damian Chavez, Wilson Morales. We all know the names, but to like actually look into the eyes of the producers that are making that coffee, I mean, it's insane. And you just handled it so gracefully. It was awesome.
You set up the heartstrings for both of us, and but I mean, speaking of you, I mean, you were like the friend of the children. Like every time we were around all the kids, they were just flocking to you.
I'll tell you this much about Levi: the farmers, they couldn't like talk to you directly, like right, like they could to me. But what they really enjoyed, and they watched you, they're like, oh, he's really good with his hand. Like they could tell you were crafty, and like that. They saw you in the way that you interacted with the space and everything they did, and the couple questions they asked. They're like, oh, I'm like, yeah, you give him a couple times, well, he'll turn this whole place around, make it look beautiful. He'll have it running like a machine, and he's great. Like, and they were like, really?
The one language I could speak was like hard work and work ethic, right?
So on like, construction vibes, y'all. That's built.
Really right. Nicely. And then even like you said, with the dad vibes, it's like, oh, I know how important it is that when I show up that like somebody greets my kids and like treats them as much like adults as they need to be treated.
Sure.
And those kids, as soon as you like broke through the wall of like, I'm somebody that's here to buy your coffee, and was just like, I'm willing to be a goon with you.
Oh, for sure.
And just like goober out and like play and scare, and like, I mean, you kind of have to act everything through body language. So you essentially kind of, you're just literally clowning around with them.
Right.
And it was so much fun.
That, I mean, you'll see in some of the footage. I'm sure I've got you running around with the kids, and like you built, you'd build little Lincoln log out of their firewood, make a little fort for them. It was awesome to see you both really interact. I guess we should probably jump in a little bit to how it went and talk through the experience. I mean, day one, we drive up to El Cedral and we meet Wilson Morales to start the day. And I mean, just whichever one of you wants to start it off. I mean, walk the world through what it's like to get up there for the first time, because I know there's a few things that you said to me that I'm like, yeah, it's really interesting the first time you're up to experience like the proximity and things like that. So I don't know, you want to get after it, either one of you?
I found it immediately odd that as we were driving through the neighborhoods that we could point out different people's homes, and it would be like, so-and-so works here, this is his home, he produces for such and such lot, Verve buys that coffee. So-and-so produces for such and such lot. Dune buys their coffee. And connecting the people with the companies that have been supporting them. I knew that was happening, but to see them all on one street blew my mind. And then we hit Damian Chavez's house, and we were passing by. And I'm like, we're passing it. And you're like, we're going to Wilson Morales. He's at the end of the block. I'm like, they live one block from one another? No way. Yeah. I pictured them in two different locations in Honduras, and essentially they could like high five on the way to work.
Yeah.
Yep.
That speaks to the microclimates, right? Because Damian's coffee, which I know we could talk a little bit about, like the literal locations, and you guys can share that there's 2, soon to be 3 locations where we get this coffee, but the microclimates of the areas so close to each other where the coffee's planted and how they taste. Like Damian tastes very different than Wilson Morales, that's different than Nelly and Guzman, and I mean, Nelly's a whole different part of the mountain, but isn't that crazy that they can be next door neighbors, and one, because of Pacas being a variety versus Para y Nema, those flavor profiles, though, so close together, so different.
It's vastly different.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but it's a lot like wine.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's essentially the same thing, and if you drink wine, you can get 10 different wines from the Santa Cruz Mountains, and they'll all taste completely different, and we don't think that's crazy.
Sure.
But then when I'm actually seeing this many farms for coffee right next to each other, it's the same thing, and I just never really realized it.
The Cat and Cloud podcast is sponsored by Steeped Coffee. Steeped Coffee is a new brewing method that combines specialty craft coffee into a single serving bag. You don't need a machine. You don't have to make a mess no matter where you are. All you have to do is add hot water. Each steep pack is individually sealed and nitrogen flushed so it stays fresh, and it's got this special immersion filter. And the filter is ultrasonic sealed, which means it's sealed together with no glue, no staples, so there's no weird stuff floating around in your coffee. Steeped is a Benefit B Corp. They ethically source all their coffee. Their packaging is fully compostable, and they believe that business should be done without compromise. You can get your hands on Steeped Coffee at steepedcoffee.com. That's STEEPED coffee.com. Asking your local retail stores to start carrying Steeped, or having your favorite roaster reach out and get in touch. If you happen to be in Santa Cruz, come on by any of the Cat and Cloud locations. We have it there for you. Basically, they're just doing their best to change the coffee industry and make your life more convenient with their pre-portioned, pre-ground innovation. So tell all your friends.
How was it for you? I mean, we get up there, we start walking.
That
right?
was the day one, remind me, because it's been a little bit.
So, yeah,
that was the day we picked up the birdhouses.
So day one on the way, we pick up the birdhouses.
Yeah, we picked up the birdhouses, and I was like, okay, we're doing this. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
We picked up the birdhouses, and it was kind of interesting because for me, like, I showed up, and I'm like, this looks like Latin America, because
Sure.
I've been to Latin America several times, and, like, my family's from Mexico, so I was like, this looks like Latin America. So it felt pretty homey, and, like, I knew the people.
Yeah.
But, I got to, like, meet, like, I went with Benjamin inside to pick up. He's like, "Oh, you're coming with me?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want to come in. I want to meet. I want to get to know." Right? And he was like, "Oh, okay." Like, okay,
Yeah.
I see you, because we were still trying to get to know
that
each
was
other.
the very beginning.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's like, "Who is this guy?" He was like gut checking me a little bit. Like, is he really this nice? Like, it was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And then he started introducing me, and I was saying hi to everyone. Like, got to meet his cousin, and
Yeah.
forget who else was there. I think one of his uncles. I can't remember, but it was really, really cool. And then seeing how tight knit everything is in that town was so cool. He's like, "Oh yeah, that guy's second cousins with this guy, and like he does that, and they like help each other out." And then we went to go drop off these like birdhouses that they laser cut. I was like, which I thought it was interesting, like laser cut these like
Pretty
birdhouses. And he's like, "Yeah," I'm like, laser cut birdhouses, and
Well, they built them at the car shop.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
so Benjamin's cousin has a shop where they work on cars, not unlike here, but with actual tools. And they're in the background, diss track. Anyway, and then they're going next level. You like that over there.
And then we went to go drop them off, and the funniest thing was for me, it was like these birdhouses look so cool, right?
Remember who we dropped them off to?
It was one of Damien's relatives. It was his
Damien's brother,
yeah.
Lionel Chavez, which will have his coffee this year. We'll do a Chavez Brothers release.
Oh yeah,
These
that was
birdhouses
super cool.
looked like a childhood drawing of a birdhouse. They
Like
were
perfect.
perfectly square with a perfectly like gabled roof, and like it was legit the quintessential birdhouse with the small hole in the middle.
Yeah.
The most hilarious thing for me was that obviously they're trying to invite like native wildlife. They're doing it to like try to like create this ecosystem around the coffee and not just have it be coffee, which felt special in their intention. But the most hilarious thing was that when we get to Damien's brother, he's like, "Oh, the holes are too small." And he's like, "Why? Like you'll get birds in there." He's like, "I know, but I wanted them for toucans."
Yeah. The toucans and the quetzals at the top of the mountain, which is what Lionel did and does also, is he leads these treks to the top of the mountain. Top of the mountain is all national park, so it's protected. You can't grow coffee above. Essentially, one of the highest spots is one of Damien's plots of land, and he calls it La Quetzales.
But yeah, it was a very funny moment because he was happy, but he was like, "But I wanted toucans."
He's all, make them bigger, Benjamin.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the day we took the birdhouses. We said
birdhouses.
hi to Damien. We'll be back later, and then we went to see Wilson and walked his farm with his squad. Got coconuts.
They like met us with these coconuts, which was their like offering of like, yeah, here you go. This is like welcome to.
That was
our
the first
thing.
for me. That was
Yes.
We're just standing around the wash basin with like a huge
coconuts.
Yeah,
Huge.
massive.
Yeah, so tight. But talking to Wilson and the guy, I forget his name. What was his name? Do you remember the older gentleman who was
William?
with him? I don't
No,
remember.
William. I'm almost positive it's William. Or that's
He's a lawyer.
You know what? No, William is typically the farm manager. He wasn't there.
No, it
So
was the
William was
older
there
guy.
last
I
year.
totally forgot his name.
I know,
feel so
but
bad.
I
It's
do
been
remember
some
he was a
time.
lawyer, and you were getting deep into good conversations with that.
Yeah,
guy.
and it was he was still a lawyer, but he was like getting down and like
Yeah.
he loved. They both like you could tell that they were working professionals.
Yeah.
Because they were very intellectual with the way they spoke about things, and I connected with Wilson in like I was like, okay, who is this guy? I was trying to get to know him, like asking him a bunch of base level questions.
Yeah.
Because that's like what you have to do. Because I've never met him in my entire life. Said his name a million times, but yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
And they were very intellectual, and like you could talk to them about very ethereal things, and talking about business and like what it meant and what we do and why we do what we do. They understood, and actually Wilson really gets it. Like he understands, and he follows us on Instagram, and he's so tuned in to what we do, and he's so stoked to work with us like we are with him.
So the thing about Wilson and Damien is I really connected with, I connect with both of them a lot, but as you noticed, Damien and Chris had this really deep connection, and I felt like Wilson was like, he's the innovator guy. He had all these ideas. So he and I were getting on like that, and then Chris and Damien just have this like, this bond vibe, which I also have, but there's like a,
Yes.
it was like a Wilson and Damien, and that was, Ben Hameen was like, you guys are going to have great relationships with these two people to start. And they were our original two relationships up there. So yeah, it was interesting because I also noticed that with Wilson is really intellectual guy with all these ideas. He works as an agronomist for the National Forest Service as well. So he plants a lot of endangered trees and things on his farm, which I thought was really cool as well.
Yeah.
Geeked out on that stuff. His farm's name is Finca Aurora too, which is my daughter's name. So I also kind of like just felt real connected, and we didn't know that going into it. So they're really, really, I mean, great guys. And I really enjoyed that lawyer as well. He had such an awesome presence about him. Obviously, I couldn't understand.
He knew
as
a
much
lot.
as you.
He knew a lot, and I was just surprised. He's like, oh, he was telling me about all these bugs, and like he really wanted to connect with us, but you could tell he's like, this isn't my place, but like, I want to talk to you. And I was like, I was talking to him, and
Yeah, we got to taste some raw beans.
Yeah, we got to taste some raw beans.
Red bean.
Very, very professional.
Yes.
Like when we walked
Yes.
up, it felt like a professional setting.
Yes.
Almost immediately.
Yes.
And then Herman started like, making small
Open 'em
talk.
up.
And next thing you know, we're on the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And Wilson's like, you guys want to jump for a photo?
That was the best part.
So we went from
He
being
really
like,
loved that.
like having a polo, right? And I like made this little joke about like taking the cheesiest like Instagram photo of us all jumping, and it was fully a joke, and none of us anticipated doing it. And as soon as my feet came off the ground, he was in.
Oh, he loved
He was like,
it.
"Let's go."
He's all, go higher, so it looks like you're jumping in the cliffs behind, like you can't see the floor.
Yep.
I was like, we're gonna fall off the cliff, dog.
We went so into it.
We went
So
from
into it.
straight professional to a bunch of 12-year-olds in
It was a good
minus
moment.
no time at all.
We're all nice and sweaty. Yeah, Wilson's farm, you have to go straight up the
Oh, yeah.
mountain, and then it's kind of has a backside and a top side, and you can see the lake. That was, I mean, yeah, that's your intro, is like straight up the mountain with the baby puppy, and that little boy who's been there every single year. I've watched him grow up as well. Him and Marvelli are like the two who are always there, and he just like sweeps up the farm for Wilson. He's like a cousin or a nephew or something like that.
He's the next generation.
He is, but Wilson never talks about it. It's almost like he just kind of like shows up every time. And anyway, I think he thinks I'm just like the white guy, which is funny, but I'm down. I'm like always getting him on my camera, and I win him over. I get a smile every time, but it takes a minute. He tries to play tough.
Yeah.
So we go from there, which was amazing. So
Yes.
the thing that was impactful for me this year is we connected. Wilson's got a farm that's bigger than Cat and Cloud, and we've known he was going to outgrow us, and we want to continue to grow and buy as much of his coffee as possible. But he's got, and we'll have close to 100 bags on a good year, and that's a lot of coffee to buy for us as a company who's nearly 5 years old. And I wanted to show him, as we were unable to buy the rest of his coffee, that he wasn't going to have to worry about finding partners, nor was Ben Hameen. And so prior to this, I'd reached out to some amazing coffee companies, Aloha in Hawaii, Stobel in Chico, and Vertigo, our friends over in San Juan Bautista, to see if they'd be interested, send them samples and everything, and they all agreed to buy the remainder of Wilson's coffee. So it was really meaningful to have that conversation and not be like, hey, we're not going to be able to buy all your coffee this year, ... versus we're not going to be able to buy all your coffee, but we have people who are in our community that are going to pick up the rest of this and I vouch for them essentially, and they want to start relationships here. So you're covered, and as we grow, we'll just kind of slowly but surely either take it back or continue to invest in more of the community. And that to me was just not even humble bragging, full brag. It felt really good to take care of that for them.
I could see the excitement in your eyes with every conversation that happened. And when you're in the cafe and you walk in and you're like, oh, I like arranged this like thing with these other coffee shops and we're selling extra bags for Wilson Morales, it all feels super official.
Yeah.
And like there's paperwork being signed or like things are happening in that way.
Sure.
And what I realized was it was just you calling your friends at other coffee shops and like picking up your phone, like you were texting your mom and being like, yo, I got this super good coffee and I got this farmer who's worth the time. And then every time somebody would lock in, it was like you'd hit the lottery. I mean, you literally were jumping out of your chair at one point, shouting because somebody was like,
my coin on BitClout.
Yeah, wow, the whole trip, but
or it was like, we got that Pineapple Express. You gotta buy some. It's so good.
Well, it was like essentially, I just saw how much joy you were getting out of supporting Wilson and how much of an actual conversation it was.
Well, did you see his face when we first? Because you translated, right? And so I was like, okay, this is going to go well, but at the same time, like, knowing that we're not going to buy all of his coffee, I could see his face start off like, oh shit.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so that was the part I was most nervous about, is what's going to happen when I have to tell him that. And I do feel that connected to show that we need, and people can do more. That's the thing. You can call your friends. You can be like, you want to get in on this? Like, let's do something special. Why not? And that part, to me, I'm super passionate about. So I was really glad it went over well, because I watched his face go to, okay, cool, as long as you, and then he said, right, like, as long as you know you're number one, we're in this together, whatever you need, like, you get first dibs on the future.
That's why, like, that exact moment, he's like, it's not like I work for you, but like,
right.
You, like, I do this with you.
Totally.
And I trust you that much. And like, seeing, like, he would, like, you'd said that, and he was like, oh, yeah, this is why I work with you.
That's cool.
It was a very touching moment for him.
I got a little chicken skin going on because that's what it felt like to me, too. I was like, and that's why I wanted to do it so bad. You could tell every time I was like, we got another one. I was like, yes. Yeah. It was more like an investment, I guess. More for Wilson, though.
Also, imagine getting to taste this coffee roasted by multiple different companies, across the United States. It's going to be like really cool to order a couple bags elsewhere.
Go to my hometown, get it. Yeah. Go to Hawaii, get it. Go to.
Like, this is our coffee. This is your coffee. Like, we all get to experience this together from different perspectives, different roasting styles.
Yeah. That part is also super exciting. And then to get them over, because to me, I love sharing experiences. So I loved bringing you two over for none other than to go have an experience in another country with two people who are impacting our company so well. And just to see what it's like, just to watch you see. And I mean, even doing that through eating at Damien's table was psychotic, right?
That was the very special moment, I think, in
unbelievable
of the trip.
I mean, go for it. I mean, takeaways, anything.
It was just like, if I were to take one thing away from the trip, it would be the 2 hours around that table.
Yeah.
The way life is so much smaller there.
Ugh.
And to be able to sit around a table and have a conversation with people that you don't know very well, because I didn't know them,
sure,
and to comfortably be able to sit in silence for more than 30 or 40 seconds at a time, knowing that nobody's waiting on the next text message or television program or bit of work, that was hugely impactful for me. It was like, we're just sitting in this moment together, and you could feel how important it was, and it felt comforting. And then on top of that, we were there just experiencing the food that they eat on a regular basis. They were sharing some of the way they roast coffee with us, and what their coffee was on the farm, which is not what the coffee that we drink here in the States is like.
Sugar
and
bomb.
So it was a 2-hour tour of everyday life.
Wasn't that a trip?
Really nice.
Well, and that's where we found out that Damien's wife needed surgery.
Yeah.
Which she just had, by the way, thanks to the Best Friends Club. So all of you who support the Best Friends Club, you've heard us talk about it on a previous podcast. Maybe Mr. Weiser can drop a link into it. But she had gallbladder surgery because of the extra help. And we found out that night that was one of the things on the table. And they run that farm, like, right? We found out, I knew, but you found out at the table, they will talk you through, like, this is a husband, wife, kids, cousins. We go pick it, we go fertilize. Like, when the time comes, we go do this all together. We don't get other people.
He was also super supportive of his wife and was fully repping her as his partner.
Like a manager, right?
Right. And he's like, basically, she's indispensable on this farm.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really nice to see somebody just fully supporting somebody else in that way.
Yeah.
It was really interesting, though, because I had asked him before when we were walking around and talking, like, what are your dreams? Like, what are you looking to do? Like, what's next level for you? Like, what are you aiming for, right? And he told me all these things about how he wants to improve his coffee and what he wants to do and, like, what he wants to use his money and what's his, like, next plan. But he really didn't say anything about his wife at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until he invited us, he's like, are you guys staying? Like, we asked Benjamin, and we're like, are we staying for dinner? And then, like, Damien's like, of course you're staying for dinner.
Yeah.
Like, like you're gonna stay and we're gonna have you
we
here.
We're staying. Yeah.
And he's like, you have to stay here.
It's a
for
tradition.
dinner.
We do dinner now the last 2 years.
Right. And then that's when we found that out. It wasn't because he was gonna, like, expose that and, like, say, I need help for this. And then even though he wants to make better coffee, obviously, because it means a lot of things for him, like more money, like more longevity and so forth. But this is the actual thing he needed.
Mm-hmm.
What he was weighing. Like, imagine, do I spend this money helping my wife or make better coffee? It's like, now he doesn't have to choose.
Yeah. And he wasn't going to put that on us, right?
No,
he wasn't trying to put it on us. We literally just sat down around the kitchen table with him, and he was talking with us as if he would have been talking to one of his, like, close relatives.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
That's exactly what
And then we jumped in the truck and giggled our way up the 4-wheel drive hill with
in the rain.
Marvelly and Damien, and it rained on us for a quick minute.
That was a great moment.
And then we hiked up to Quetzales, which is where he's got a bunch of bourbon planted that next year we'll probably get our first little taste of. And we got to stay in Benjamin's little apartment for the first time ever on the Rambutan farm, which was cool too. And normally we stay somewhere else. But yeah, you both traveled really easy. We just go, right? It was like, get up, go, handle our business. But those days are long.
And we only see 2 people.
And you only see 2 people. But you're in the moment the whole time. Those moments, and that is great about Honduras. 2 people. We visit 2 people, and an entire day goes by. That's it. Yeah. 2 human beings, right? And it's like 4 to 6 hours per person, and that's all you do.
What that translates is 12 hours a day for 4 days in a row before we get back to just decompress.
Right.
I mean, it was, and that's the way I prefer to travel, and going into this trip not knowing what you guys traveled like, and then finding out that we could go hard all day, every day.
That's my due.
And like hike.
It was proper hiking.
It was great.
Yeah.
I couldn't have asked for better travel partners.
Yeah. That was great too. And it is always a cool surprise. You 2 killed it, and it was fun. It was really easy. We're going to have to do multiple parts of this because there are a lot of stories that are going to come out just from us talking that are going to go long, and it's totally worth sharing them. So we're going to maybe have to do like a mini series, but Levi, Herman, great people. Come see them in our cafes and shout them out on your Instagrams and worlds, whatever that means. Doesn't even matter. All right, y'all. We'll talk to you next time. You all are the greatest. Stay gold.
I got so many pictures of my feet on my Instagram these days, so don't connect unless you want to see that.
Thanks for listening, y'all. This podcast is an extension of our mission to inspire connection by creating memorable experiences. If you want to get more acquainted with what we do, you can go on over to tagsoundcloud2010tracks1076673640. There you'll find a little bit of everything. If you want coffee, we got coffee there. If you want to be directed to some other magic media, basically it's your hub for all things Cat and Cloud. If you want to dive in on a deeper level, we do have a Patreon. It's $5 a month, about the price of a latte each month. You get a peek behind the scenes of what we do here, unpacking some of the ideas that we talk about during this podcast, rants and raves, Q&As, Jared and I just talking shit together. Biased opinion, yes, but I think it's a lot of fun. So thanks for listening. Go out and inspire someone to do something amazing. Bye.